Good morning, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students and scholars, teachers, trainers, professors, professionals, officials, listener learners. I welcome all respected doctors and directors. I welcome honorable ministers and managers. I welcome honorable advocates, advertisers, administrators and advisors. I welcome the most honorable President Mr. Modi ji, all my dear friends, those who are listening, watching YouTube channel 3M Creator, I heartily cordially welcome. It is really nice time, nice place, nice session that we are going through our holy Indian Constitution in the form of unity and diversity. As we have started earlier, in the US Constitution, many restrictions have been placed on the legislative powers of the legislature. There, the Constitution to repeat such legislation which is contrary to the Constitution. It is clear that in the US Constitution, judges are given more important position than the legislature. One of the reasons realists are more forced on American judges is that judges are appointed by election, not on the basis of merit, experience, and seniority, so that judges cannot live without being influenced by political influence. Realists are conscious of the representation of the law in the judgments declared by such judges. America's law and justice system is less mature than in England. It can be called the latest law and justice system. This is why realists pay special attention to judges. Common law is involved in various states of America. As a result, the responsibility of lawmaking is bound to fall on the judges. This is also one of the main reasons realists are focused on judges. Proponents of realist ideology say that it is more important for the law to be practical Judicial decisions of judges are not based only on law. Their decisions affect many things like personal views of the judges, beliefs, perception, social, economic, and political views, family background, etc. They make a big difference between judges, judgments, and codified laws. On this basis, released ideology has not been accepted as a separate branch of jurisprudence and has been considered only as a form of sociological method. Released ideology has also been called factual articulation. Factualism means that under it, jurists move away from certain principles, concepts, and inductive methods to find the rationale of a legal rule based on external facts and external facts. In this way, realistic ideology is an elemental law based on reality in which the internal mood, nature, and emotions of jurists are considered. Proponents of realist ideology believe that knowledge of the reality of law can be obtained only from the facts which actually exist. Therefore, instead of should, which is means the present should be emphasized. Major supporters of realist ideology. The main proponents of realist ideology are John Chapman Gray. John Chapman Gray is considered the father of realist ideology. John Chapman's importance in jurisprudence is as supporter of the analytical branch, accepting the analytical approach in terms of law. Gray has not given ideals any place in forensic science. However, they deviate far from the analytical law because he did not consider enacted legislation to be the focal point of the law. John Chapman considered legislation as a source of law. To his opinion, the real focal point of the law is the judge because his personality, for example, behavior, conduct, conscience, and goodwill, have an effect on his decisions. Thus, John Chapman Gray's main contribution to jurisprudence is that he has emphasized the need to give more importance to judicial decisions than enacted legislation. Justice Holmes, noted jurist Oliver Wendell Holmes, is also considered the father of American realist ideology. It is believed that the realist ideology was started by an essay by Justice Holmes, which was published in the year 1897. In this article, Justice Holmes concluded that realist cosmos is centered on the judges. Realist cosmos is centered on the judge. Justice Holmes citing that the accused standing in the top, the accused standing in the dock does not pay attention to the enacted law of law and does not care about the law. Instead, his attention is always on what decision is to be given by the judge, that is, the folks of the accused based on the judge rather than on the law. Justice Holmes believes that what will be the decision of the court, this is the law. All other arguments are meaningless. According to G.W. Patton jurisprudence, in essence, it can be said that according to the realist ideology, the judicial decision made by the judges in the present day is the law. The law should not be found in the enacted legislation, but its implementation should be considered as the law. For this, study of sociology, economics, criminology, psychology, etc. is required. Justice Holmes, the father of realist ideology, says that law is always variable and practical. It varies according to the country, time, and circumstances. So it is not necessary that a decision given in the past is the same in the present, because the circumstances can change from one event to another. Professor Professor Carey Llewellyn says, among proponents of realist ideology, the name of Professor Carey Llewellyn is also taken to the front line. Professor Carey Llewellyn strongly supported the realist ideology in response to the sociological ideology of greed, rush to power. According to Professor Carey Llewellyn, the main aim of the realist is to create momentum in the ideas and actions of the law. In the words of Professor Carey Llewellyn, realism is not a new branch of jurisprudence, but it is only a latest system of jurisprudence. The method is progressive and not motionless. Legal life serves social purpose. The word ought is of no importance to know the true form of the law. According to him, word purpose is the different from law. We should only pay attention to what the law is and how it is working. Judicial decisions are more affected by social change in realism. That is, we pay more attention to realistic law and social impact of judicial decisions. Realist thinkers raise doubts about the effectiveness of law, rules, and law related hypotheses. While studying the decision laws, Realists do not consider prior decisions as definitive and adopt them logically in their decisions. In the view of realists, the law is the same as that expressed by the judges in their judgments. So one must pay attention to the personal and psychological attitude of the judges in order to learn the law. Professor Carey's ideas are reflected in Indian law. Justice Jerome Frank, the name of America's famous judge Jerome Frank is also associated with reverence among the supporters of realist ideology. He has divided the views of the various realists into a certain category. According to him, the first category of realists includes the names of the jurists whose belief is that legal rules do not bring any uniformity in the law. Professor Carey falls under this category. Realists of this category see uniformity of rules of sociology, economics, criminology, political science, psychology, etc., and apply them towards law. Second, list of realists can include those thinkers who consider it futile to consider the uniformity of legal rules. According to this, the lack of uniformity in the legal rules is so clear and obvious that the question of considering it does not arise. Such realists focus their attention exclusively on the establishment of facts. Frank has given both these categories the names of rule skeptics and fact rule skeptics and fact skeptics. Jerome Frank has just judicial decisions given in similar circumstances in the past as the real law. In his view, the possible law is not the law. Justice Cardozo, in modern realist thinkers, the name of America's famous judge, Cardozo cannot be forgotten. Justice Cardozo's belief has been that law is not what judges make, but it is what will be made by the judge. Justice Cardozo, the growth of law. It is mentioned there. It is clear that Justice Cardozo has denied the importance of prior judicial decisions. In his view, law is a means of social welfare. In his view, the nature of law should be welfare so that it can fulfill the expression, fulfill the expectations of the society. According to him, law is a compilation of rules of conduct which have been formulated for reasonable certainty of judicial decisions. In its criticism, we can say the above modern realist ideology of America has been criticized. It is not justifiable to ignore laws and codes enacted by the realist outside the purview of law. It is a mistake to consider judicial decisions as superior to the enacted law. In fact, judicial decisions and enacted laws are of equal importance to legal practitioners. Only the judiciary is valued by realists is an injustice to the legislature. It is necessary for judges to give place to the enacted law in their judicial decisions. Otherwise, their decisions will take the form of probable law rather than actual law, which is not considered as realistic law. It is the belief of realists that the enacted law lacks certainty and uniformity. The reality is that there is a lack of certainty and uniformity in the judicial decisions of the judges because in them the discretion of the judges works more. But now realists have started accepting the enacted law as law and they have started to behave accordingly. What is the central point of realist legal ideology is the judge. Justice Holmes has explained this statement. Oliver is known as Justice Holmes. He was a judge of the US Supreme Court for years. In the year 1897, an article of Holmes was published in which he expressed the view that realist cosmos is centered on the judge Justice Holmes. Justice Holmes was of the view that enacted law is made up of moral principles, valid practices, other similar principles. But the accused standing in the courtroom in the court does not care about all this. That is, he has nothing to do with all these things. His attention is focused only on what is going to be decided by the judge in his case. From this, it becomes clear that, according to Holmes, what will be the decision of the court? That is the method, this is the reality. The law enacted is of no importance to the accused. He only sees what the court is going to decide. This is the reality. The proponent of the realist ideology says that legal problems cannot be solved by enacted law, but can be done by implementing the rules of law. For this, the support of branches of knowledge related to human behavior becomes necessary. The branches of knowledge can be sociology, economics, criminology, psychology, etc. Justice Holmes believed in the relativity of the individual's conduct. He was of the opinion that law can only be socially useful or promoting human interest, which has the capacity to change according to the country, time, and circumstances. In this context, law is a concept that changes with time so that it remains useful for the society. Holmes has said that the accused is not concerned about the principles on which the law applies to him, but his attention is always on what law the judge applies in his case. The given the decision will be in his favor or against him. In such a situation, it becomes the duty of the judge to whatever the law is, give its decision according to that. Creative interpretation of the law. Do not ignore the fundamental principles of the relevant law. Consider all decisions if such a decision is in doubt. Give a decision according to your discretion. It is clear from the view of Judge Holmes that he gave more importance to the judgment method of the court than the law enacted. In other words, it can be said that, according to the realistic ideology, the judicial decision made by the court or present is the law. Law should not be found in enacted legislation, but its implementation should be considered as law. For this study of sociology, economics, criminology, and psychology strategies required. Justice Holmes says that law is always changing and practical. It varies according to the country, time, and circumstances. So it is not necessary that any decision given in the past should be the same in the case of the present because the circumstances may change from one event to another. It is because of the above ideology that Holmes is considered the father of realist ideology. The law is not that which is made by the judge, but that which shall be made by the judge. Justice Cardozo, let's explain the statement of that judge. Benjamin Cardozo was a judge on the US Supreme Court from 1932 to 1938. Judge Cardozo is considered as important contributor to the advancement of the realist ideology. His ideology was that law is not what the judges make, but that will be which will be made by the judge. According to him, the precedent of judicial decisions, for example, the illustration is not more important. He is of the opinion that law is an instrument of social welfare. One is law is an instrument of social welfare. Two is the nature of law should be welfare. Three is it must have the ability to conform to social needs. And law is a collection of rules of conduct which are formulated for reasonable certainty of judicial decisions. Cardozo disagreed with Austin's prescriptive theory. He was of the view that the law should be interpreted on the basis of social needs and to its realities of human life. He was of the clear belief that the judge should keep the following points in mind while giving the decision. One is social needs, two is social conditions, three is moral values. Justice Cardozo reflected the importance of prior judicial decisions. In his view, law is a means of social welfare. According to him, the nature of law should be welfare so that it can fulfill the expectation of the society. According to him, law is a collection of such rules of conduct which are propounded by reasonable certainty of judicial decisions. In its criticism, we can say the realist ideology of Cardozo and Holmes, etc., have been criticized on the following grounds. It is not justified to keep enacted laws and codes out of the purview of law and to ignore them. It is a mistake to regard judicial decisions as superior to the enacted law. In fact, judicial decisions and enacted laws have equal importance for legal practitioners. Giving importance to only the judiciary is an injustice to the legislation. Judges are required to place enacted laws in their judicial decisions. They cannot go beyond the law enacted. It is a mistake to assume that the law enacted lacks certainty and uniformity. The reality is that there is a lack of certainty and uniformity in the judicial decisions of the judge because the discretion of the judges works more in them. Let's discuss the Scandinavian realism. Scandinavian realism gave impetus to America's realist ideology. In other words, it can be said that the credit for advancing American realism goes to the supporters of Scandinavian realist ideology. It is a different matter that Scandinavian realist ideology has no close resemblance to America's realist ideology. The Scandinavian ideology has always kept its belief in the law distinct from the realist ideology of America, while, while the realists of America want to see the implementation of the law by keeping themselves confined to the four walls of the judiciary and do not want to place the hypothesis in realism. The proponents of Scandinavian ideology are interested in developing the formal philosophicality of the method. Their goal is to see that what is the method and how does she act as a social fact. Main characteristics of Scandinavian realism. What are the main characteristics of Scandinavian realism are as follows. One is Scandinavianism does not believe in any relation between realism, law, and justice. This ideology does not even accept the importance of rights, duties, sovereignty, and orders. Pattern, a textbook of jurisprudence, says proponents of this ideology believes that proponents of ideology believe that law is necessary for the survival and welfare of human society. Accepting the law as a social fact, the proponents of this ideology say that the law is like machinery whose recognition lies not in the state or its order, but in the fear of the use of organized community power. It is recognized that the dynamics of the law are not in the order received by the state, but by fear arising from human or community power. William Lundstedt, the pioneer of Scandinavian realism, opined that law generates consciousness in certain social conditions that inspire individuals of society to lead a peaceful coexistence. This is the reason for considering the law as binding because it is related to mutual cooperation, coexistence, and internal feelings. It is also related to social curiosities. Lundstedt says that law is indispensable for the protection of society. The objectives of the law should always be welfare, social welfare refers to such tasks which human is always ready to do and the law obligates or motivates him to do so. According to him, the principle of coexistence is the basis of the law. The main purpose of the law is to fulfill the minimum material needs of the people. Protection of life and property, protection of individual liberty and spiritual interest. This is the key to their social welfare. Criticizing these ideas of Lundstedt Professor Patton has said that. Lundstedt says that social welfare is what human beings always strive to achieve. But unfortunately, Lundstedt has not said that the use of social welfare is practical, how to provide the form, and what should be its content. Supporters of Scandinavian realism. The main proponents of Scandinavian realism ideology are considered the following. One is Axel Hengerstorm. Axel Hengerstorm is considered the father of the father of the Scandinavian realist ideology. Axel Hengerstorm was a professor of philosophy at Uppsala University in Sweden. He had a profound influence on the philosophy of Lundstedt and Elf Rose. Axel Hengerstorm rejected the reciprocal relationship of rights and duties, saying the rejected saying the objective existence of legal liability was unfounded. Similarly, while denouncing the concept of right and wrong, he said that it only shows the feelings of and approval of people towards the facts. Recognizing the usefulness and significance of the law by Axel Hengerstorm, it is futile to examine it on a scientific basis, considering it as a matter of personal evolution. His special emphasis was on analyzing legal concepts on the basis of their actual usefulness. Olav Krona. Olav Krona was a disciple of Hengerstorm and a supporter of the Scandinavian realist ideology. He was endorsed the views of his guru Rama that any theory of the bending power of law, whether it is principle of natural law or the principle of civil law, is just a type of transcendentalism. In this view, Olav Krona also did not give natural law philosophy and absolute concept of justice to the law due to the well organized force in the law. Society is just, society is bound to sustain it. Olav Krona also considers rebellion as a phase of development of the law and prose. Alfros is considered to be a noted realist thinker. and jurist of Denmark. He strongly supported the Scandinavian realist ideology. According to him, legal assumptions should be interpreted keeping in mind the social realities. Alfros insisted on giving more importance to the courts, rejecting Lundsted's principle of social welfare. In his opinion, there were two types of legal standards. One, standards of conduct. Two is process standard. The standards of law govern the court proceedings. The tragedy is key. One of the names of supporters of Scandinavian realist ideology is Petrajewski. He gave a new direction to the realistic movement of law and always carried forward this movement. Contribution of Scandinavian realism. Scandinavian is believed to contribute to the following ideology. One is the Scandinavian realist ideology blew away all those old concepts towards law which were based on the concept of state and order. Earlier, he had tried to clear the prevalent law related misconception and tried to understand the complex problems related to legal philosophy as a social fact. The ideology, this ideology resulted in the emergence of welfare states. According to Friedman, the realist ideology has a special contribution in the field of law in that it has attempted to modernize the material available for the administration and legislative changes of law on the basis of rationalism. According to Julius Stone, the realist movement is a commentary of the sociological approach. He has indicated that the realist approach should be given a more balanced and practical form. Difference between Scandinavian realism and American realism. Differentiating between Scandinavian realism and American realism, Bodenheimer said that Scandinavian realism is more altruistic to theological problems than American realism. Apart from this, the Scandinavian ideology does not give special importance to the psychology and the prodigy of judicial behavior. However, both these ideologies believe in following the experimental approach towards law and life. In its criticism, Professor Yentama has criticized the Scandinavian ideology, saying that In this ideology, special attention has not been given to the human aspect, and special attention of realist was more focused on the court which is not right. It is true that the role of judge is important in the field of law and justice, but the influence of other factors on it cannot be ignored. Let's define state, elucidate the essential elements and functions of state in the context of law. State has an important place in terms of study. In fact, both law and state complement each other without one. The other cannot be conceived. The existence of the word state is as old as that of law. From the legal point of view, the word state was first used by Machiavelli. Prior to this, no institution called the state existed in ancient Greece. Earlier, the word polity was used in place of state, which means city-state. Today, the state is the sophisticated form of this city-state. What is the definition of state? Many definitions, not one of the state are given. Politicians and jurists have defined the word state in their own way. The general perception about the state is that it is an institution with an artificial personality, with no earthly form. According to Bosanquet, the state is a working concept of life as a whole. According to Simon, the state of political society is an association of human beings established for the attainment of certain ends by certain means. In the words of Austin, the state is synonymous with sovereign. It is the symbol of any one or multiple such group of people who, in terms of politics, has the best power in independent society. Austin jurisprudence, according to Austin jurisprudence, according to Holland, the state is the name of an organization of many persons who generally have a fixed plot under their suzerainty and in whom the will of the majority or the certain class of people is influenced by the majority who are against them. Holland elements of jurisprudence says, according to Bentham, when the public obeys the orders of any person or group of people whom we call an administrator, then the combined form of such public and administrator is called a state or political society. According to Gattel, the state is community of individuals who occupy a certain territory and is legally independent of external control, who has an organized government and who administers all the individuals and groups under his jurisprudence through laws made by him. According to Garner, state means a more or less majority of a community of human beings who permanently reside on a fixed plot, which is completely independent of external control and has a well organized government whose follow form a large part of its inhabitants spontaneously. Gardner Political Science and Government says, according to Woodrow Wilson, ex-president of America, people organize for law within a defined territory in the state. Giving the definition of the state in the case of Chisholm and Georgia, Z. Dulles 456, the Supreme Court of America has said that The state is a body of independent individuals who have been organized with a common objective to keep their things which are their own peacefully, take advantage, and judge others. Essential elements of the state. Some of the essential elements of the state are reflected by the above definitions. In the absence of these elements, the state cannot exist. These are essential elements for the state. One is population, two is territory, three is government, and four is sovereignty. What is population? The first essential elements of the state is population. Population here means the human community. It is inevitable for the state to have human community. There is no set of humans for the human community. Generally, the state is required to have such a number of people that it can be divided into ruling and governing classes. Plato considered the population of 500 citizens and the Rousseau considered the population of 10,000 citizens sufficient for the state. Aristotle was of the opinion that it is necessary for the state to have such a certain population which is neither too small nor too much. But due to the development of human civilization and the continuous growth in human community in the present time, the population has no special importance. Territory. The second essential element of the state is the territory. For the existence of the state, it is very important to have a certain land. The territory is expected to be such that some people reside permanently. In its best example is that of Jews, as long as the Jews were the Jews were scattered all over the world. They could not build any kingdom, and when they settled in Israel permanently, it became a powerful state. Territory boundary is not fixed. The land area of the state can be small and also big. The territory included the territory includes land, rivers, lakes, seashores, etc. It is noteworthy here that the land is not considered necessary for the Samand state. In his opinion, the wandering caste can also form a state if it has been organized itself to fulfill from essential function for the government. What is government? Government is the third essential of the state. The existence of government is inevitable for the survival of the state. In fact, government is an institution through which the state performs its functions. The main function of the government is to keep the state safe from external and internal attacks and to maintain peace and order in the society. Gattel says the government acts as a link between the state and the inevitable. The government acts as a link between the state and the individuals. It is, it is an instrument through which international relations are established and subjects related to common interests are conducted. Sovereignty. The fourth and final essential element of the state is sovereignty. The state cannot be conceived in the absence of sovereignty. Sovereignty determines the political existence of the state. Sovereignty means the state is free from the control of any external power. There is no external or foreign control over the sovereign state. In this way, it is necessary for the state to have the above four elements. In the absence of any of these, the existence of the state cannot be envisaged. Function of state, as we saw above, the state is created with certain objectives. The state tries to fulfill these objectives. These efforts are called functions of the state. The aim of the state has been public welfare since the beginning. This is confirmed by utilitarian theory itself. Presently, each state is becoming a public welfare state. As far as the state functions are concerned, they can be broadly divided into two parts. Primary function, one is primary function and two is secondary function. What is primary function? The primary function of the state are those actions which are indispensable for the existence of the state. According to Simon, the primary function of the state protecting your territory from external aggression and establishing justice. It is the duty of the state to protect the territory from external aggression. For this, the state may also have to fight against external forces. Establishing justice means maintaining peace and order in the state. Thus, the first task is external and the second is internal. If war is necessary for the international existence of the state, then the establishment of justice is indispensable for internal existence. Hobbes says that from the point of view of primary functions, the state has two souls, one of the war and the other of justice. Howard Spencer has also stated two major functions of the state. One is to protect against external enemies and two is to suppress internal anarchy. Secondary function. The secondary function of the state means to cultivate and promote the general interest of the society. Salmon has called the secondary works of the state as alternative works. Completing secondary tasks is not necessary for the survival of the state. The secondary works of the state have also been divided into two categories. One is first such works which are helpful in the primary functions of the state, such as legislation and taxation. The purpose of legislation is to establish justice in the state, and the purpose of taxation is to raise financially resources for the smooth functioning of the affairs of the state. Second, such works which are considered necessary for the welfare and happiness of the society, such as education, food, electricity, water supply, industry, agriculture, medicine, etc. Thus, the state's functions are classified into two parts of the priority. Let us explain critically the Austin's doctrine of sovereignty. Sovereignty has an important place in the context of the existence of the state. No state is possible without sovereignty. The word sovereignty is derived from the French word souverain, which means the supreme power, above which there is no other power, according to the famous Manishi Banda. Sovereignty is the absolute and external power of the state. Hobbes has also said that the sovereignty is best power that is above religion. All the laws of the state originate from sovereignty. Offenders' views differ somewhat from this. They do not consider sovereignty to be omnipotent. In his view, sovereignty is definitely the best in the state, but it is not absolute power, as it cannot be confined by the Constitution. According to Bryce, sovereignty lies in a person whose desire compels others to obey him, but it cannot be governed by the will of another person. In this way, sovereignty means paramount power or rights. There are some principles of sovereignty in which Austin, Salmon, Holland, Patchen, Jennings, etc. have an important place. Austin principle of sovereignty. John Austin is considered the originator of the analytical branch of jurisprudence. Austin's theory of sovereignty is based on Hobbes' ideas. According to Austin, if a specific or senior person who is not used to obey the command of any other equally specific or senior person and his command is followed by most of the people of a particular society or community, then such a specified senior or specific person is the person of that society will be a sworn person and that society will be called a political and independent society. This definition of Austin makes it clear that a sovereignty power cannot be positive as well as negative. Positive because the powers of sovereignty are obeyed by all, and negatively because it is not bound to obey anyone. According to Austin, for his positive traits, the following things are necessary. The orders of the sovereign power and should be obeyed permanently by the public as a habit and not only for some time. Such orders should be followed by most of the people of the state and not by just a few. The command, the commandments should be obeyed as one common superior. There should be no other superior. There must be a certain person or group of people and or with sovereignty. No unbelievable or godlike concept can be spun. In relation to its negative traits, it can only be said that he is not used to obeying anyone else, and as an exception, he sometimes obeys the commands of other equal rulers. Then, on this basis, he is not deprived of his sworn qualities. Austin's sovereignty principle has the following three important features. One is imperative of sovereignty. According to Austin, every political society essentially has a paramount power. Every political society essentially has a paramount power. Such power can be contained in a person or group of persons. It is not mandatory that such sovereignty can be vested within the state. It can also be completely or partially out of state. If a state is completely independent and sovereign, then its sovereignty will be fully vested in it. If a state is semi-sovereign despite being independent, then its self-independence is violated because a part of its sovereign power is under any other superior. Overall, it can be said that sovereignty definitely exists in every state. Austin had emphasized that sovereignty must exist within the state. According to Salmon, it may be partly contained it may be partly contained in the same state and partly in a larger state. Salmon jurisprudence explains indivisibility of sovereignty. It is not enough to have sovereign power in every state, but it is also important to have sovereignty in it. In other words, it can be said that in every state there should be a person or a group of people who have sovereignty. The idea is that sovereign power should be vested in a single person or group of persons, not divided into multiple persons or groups of persons. I can also be said that sovereignty cannot be divided. Austin holds that sovereignty is inseparable. Splitting it would mean limiting it, which does not seem appropriate. Infiniteness of sovereignty. Sovereignty is considered unlimited from the legal point of view. It means that sovereignty, it means one power remains free from internal and external controls. Its statutory power cannot be limited. According to Austin, law is the will or order of one power. There is an authority within the Swan state that can create any type of law and any law at its discretion. In other words, it can be said that the power of Swan to create and abolish the law is unlimited. It is worth mentioning here that Austin has only accepted Swan rule as Swan. The factual limits of sovereignty cannot be controlled. The power of Swan depends on its criminal rights and its tendency to obey the public. Thus, Austin had some factual boundaries of Swan power. Criticism. Austin's theory of sovereignty has been criticized by various critics. Critics say that one is Austin's sovereignty ideology disregards the state theory. According to Austin, the will or command of the Son is the law, and these methods are followed by the public because they are implemented by the Son. But the reality is that the law is enforced for public welfare, which is the basic objective of the state. Therefore, laws are not followed by the public because they are implemented by the Swan, but because they involve the welfare of the public. In Austin's view, the Swan power of the Swan is absolute, but it is not. It is not absolute because it has direct control over stereotypes. According to Austin, sovereignty is completely independent, subject to one, subject to no one, But Dicey says that it is democracy. The legal sworn has to go before the political authority. Statutory sovereignty means a person or a group of persons who has the right to formulate and abolish the law, whereas political rulings means a group of people who subscribe to the administration by election. It can also be said that although the parliament is the best sworn institution of the state, that the actual control over its rests with the people. Sir Henry Mann's assertion of Austin's sovereignty principle is that this principle does not apply to underdeveloped communities in which religion and customary orthodoxy are given prominence regarding the imperative of sovereignty. Salmon does not agree. Does not agree with Austin for the reason that sovereign power should exist in the state. The reality is that the reality is that sovereign power can exist partly in the state and partly outside the state, as in subordinate or semi-sovereign states. Salmon does not agree with Austin's views that sovereignty is inseparable. According to Salmon, there can be a division of sovereign power. For example, the sovereignty of the state can be divided into the following organs. One is legislature, two is judicial, three is executive or administrative. The three limbs are independent in their respective regions and equivalent to each other. According to Sargon, sovereignty may also be limited. Despite the above criticism, Austrian theory of sovereignty has an important place in jurisprudence and political science. What is law? How it is different from morality? Let's explain it. The more important the place of law in civilized society, the more difficult it is to define it. Till date, till date, no universal definition of law can be given. There are many reasons for this. The most important reason is to be connected with social science and society. Methods vary with social change, country, time, and circumstances have a direct impact on the law. This is the reason that different definitions of the law have been given from time to time. H.L.A. Hart also said that there is hardly any question related to human life except law, which cannot be given a definite answer. The definition of method is always creating a complex question. I thank all my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students, scholars, teacher, trainer, professor, professional, officer, officials, listener, learners. I thank all respected doctors and directors. I thank all honorable minister managers. I thank all honorable advocates, secretaries, and district advisors. I thank the most honorable President Mr. Modi ji. Thank you very much, all my friends. Thank you. Nice to see all of you. Have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you to all of you.